Hello, folks. Thanks for coming back to Splash Talk. It is I, Jason Neal, with another thing that I call an episode. Maybe that's what it is, I'm not sure. But anyway, I'm not sure what episode this would be. There's been quite a few that I have posted here lately, and a few of these, I think 5 of them, the Kirk Powers interview was done. It actually was put up on my Pancake Punch YouTube channel, and I pretty much just stripped the audio away, stripped the audio away and uploaded it as a podcast. So anyway, I do see that some of you are looking or listening to the podcast, which is great. I look at it several times a day. Thank you all. Each and every one of you, all 5 of you, maybe 4, I'm not sure. But thank you for listening. I wanted to talk a little bit going back to music and me playing music and having that desire to succeed in the industry that is known as the music business. It truly is a business. There is no doubt about that. And I would like to share some adventures that I've had. So, I really don't know that it's much different than other people's experience, but being in Indiana and getting to do things, and you'll understand what I'm talking about here in a minute, being able to leave your state and explore new things as someone that is 22, maybe. Now keep in mind, this is pre-internet, not by a lot. If the internet was around, then we sure in the hell couldn't afford it. So I'm saying this is probably roughly 96, maybe 95, give or take. Really doesn't matter. So, I'm playing with different musicians as a drummer locally, and me and the bass player had this kind of thing there for a while. And I don't mean a thing, but I mean he was always coming to me asking me to take these trips with him to Nashville. And the truth to be honest with you, it was probably because I had a vehicle. And but he never took my vehicle. He took my girlfriend's vehicle because it was better. Welcome to being a musician in this area or this part. As they say, what do you call a musician without a girlfriend? Well, homeless. So anyway, this guy, his name was Mike. He would always call me Snappy. Always because my snare drum, I used a piccolo. I believe it was what was it? 3-inch? Maybe 3-inch by 13-inch. And I always had a nice high-end crack to that. Yeah, it sounds personal, doesn't it? Well, it might be. It always had a nice high-end crack, and I always used a rim shot. So he always called me Snappy, because a lot of times I would play and bring the volume down during the verses, and when everybody was starting to go to sleep at about midnight, maybe 12:30 in the morning, and the place was pretty much empty other than one person, and it's just because that simple son of a bitch couldn't find the door. So I would, everybody be, getting into the song, or just kind of drifting off. The night's about over with, because we usually end at 1 or 2 in the morning, unless you played at this place called Mingles. Well, no, actually, that was 9. Usually our gigs were 9 to 1. This was 9 to 2, or 10 to 3. I can't remember. Nonetheless. So he always called me Snappy. And he was an old country bass player. But, at one time, he listened to rock, 60s. And you're not gonna find better bass players, in my opinion, than bass players of 60s music. These people were not afraid to play by any means. So anyway, we're taking our trip down to Nashville. We got we got me and Mike and the girlfriend at the time, Julie. And we're going down maybe 4 times a month. And because Mike knew people down there. He knew songwriters. He knew people that none of us around here really knew. So we get down to Nashville. He introduces me to this songwriter that actually, if I'm not mistaken, lived in the town that I live in or the surrounding area. Brookville, Union County, I'm not sure. But he moved to Nashville to be a songwriter. All he did was pump songs out all day long. He'd write them one after another, hand them to whoever, and he wrote them in a cubicle. And that's how a lot of these songs are produced that you hear on the radio. They're just wrote by people that's more or less just writing a letter. That's how quick they write this stuff, and they just hand it to their boss. And I guess they get all of this stuff copyrighted, and then the powers that be go demo it, and then they pitch it to these artists, these country artists. I assume it was all country. I'm not sure. I would assume it was. So he got hooked up with this guy, and maybe you know him. He's a songwriter, and he was not in one of these cubicles writing by any means. His name is Bobby Braddock, and he is the guy that wrote "He Stopped Loving Her Today" by George Jones. And I believe that he wrote a few other songs. I honestly don't know. But Mike said, we're going down to Nashville. We're going to meet this cat, and we're going to talk to him because there might be something on the horizon. And if you know anything about small towns and musicians, they're cocky as hell because they think they're better than everybody else, but never can leave. They're always on the brink of making it. I don't know what they mean by making it, because none of them ever did anything locally. There was one guy that lived in a place called Laurel, which is not far from here, that he co-wrote. He was one, if I'm not mistaken, one of 6 people that co-wrote a song that Billy Ray Cyrus ended up picking up called "Storm in the Heartland." So he probably got about $25 from that for his royalty check. Back then they had royalties. Now royalties is a bad word. So anyway, I don't know that royalties even exist anymore. I mean, they do for the older people because there's still commitments that have to be honored and things like that. And there's not really record companies really anymore. I mean, there's still Atlantic, there's still Capitol, these global companies. But, I don't really know what the hell they do. I don't even know if they record. I assume they put out remasters and do all this stuff. But I really don't know what they even do anymore. Everything is so, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all these streaming services. So Anyway, so we're going down there, and we're in this. It's this little hole in the walls, greasy spoon place, and I can't remember the name of. Maybe I do. It was called Arnold's. It was called Arnold's, I believe, and it was a hole in the wall. I'm sure it still exists. I don't know. So we're meeting Bobby Braddock and talk about this girl. And this girl's name, I don't even know if it was her real name or not. I have no idea, but her name was Tammy Jones. And this girl was being pushed by Bobby Braddock. And he, of course, had a catalog of songs that I assumed that he wrote, and no one wanted it, but they were demoed out, and that's about as far as it went. So he wanted this girl that he was kind of pushing. I don't remember if it was through a label or it was just him, but he wanted her to get not really exposure, because no one really knew who she was, even though that's what exposure is about. But he wanted her to learn how to sing and perform with a band. So me, Mike Selke, and man, there was a handful of people that was in this band. I had nothing to do with this band. I mean, I played drums, but Mike was the one that put all of this stuff together. I did not. I'm just, a young kid following him around for the most part. And so we start doing these gigs locally. We would learn the stuff, and she would come in from Nashville and get up there and do her thing, and then go back to Nashville. I don't know why we never had 4 or 5 of these dates, locally, because it could have been done. I don't know how, but it could have been done more so then than ever. So we did several gigs with this girl, and she could sing. There was no doubt that she could sing. There is a video, and I don't know where the hell it's at. Well, I know where it's at, but I'm thinking I uploaded it to YouTube on my Pancake Punch channel, but I'm not sure, of us playing with this girl. So, and actually, there was a fiddle player that Mike acquired at the time that was named Gabe Martin, and he went on to play with, I don't know who in the hell he went to play with. I don't know, one of those country guys, I believe. So the fiddle player went on and done his thing and was a hired gun. And maybe he's a lot more than that. Again, there was no internet. You couldn't find people. You couldn't follow people. If you didn't have their number, well, you're shit out of luck. So anyway, we're staying in people's houses, and I don't even know who the hell they are. Mike knew them. I was sleeping on couches and getting up and going to this chick's house, to talk to her and what she needed from us to try to make this thing work and all this stuff. And so while we're down there, we're needing to kill some time. So the songwriter that's pumping out these songs, or one of them, and it looked like there was a sea of these people in these cubicles, just writing song after song after song after song. So we take a little trip with the guy. He wants to take us some places. Okay, so I jump in the car, and we pull up on this location. Is the only way I can say this. It's a location. It had a fence all the way around it, and it had various lights that were on trees. And keep in mind, this is in the 90s, folks. This is probably high-tech stuff. But I assume it was security and stuff that was not people, but cameras and lights that were hanging in the trees. So, and down in this valley, if I remember correctly, was Reba McEntire's house. And I was thinking, oh, well, who gives a shit? I don't care. That stuff never meant nothing to me, actually, until I got older. Then autographs and pictures meant a lot to me because, as I've talked about before, it was always about a journey. It wasn't about, oh, look, I got so-and-so's autograph. It was for me to kind of use as a picture. As I got older, I could look at that autograph and go, I don't even know who in the hell that is. It looks like a chicken's walked across it. It's stepped in concrete. I can't make heads or tails out of it. So, and it's one of those things, it's like, yeah, I remember getting that. I remember we were at such and such place. The guy was really nice, or the girl, what have you. Usually men. So, it's kind of a photograph for me. It's a journey. Just like I talked about with getting concert tickets back many years ago, a few decades. It was always a journey. And you met new people. So we see Reba's house, and I forget, we went to George Jones's house. It might have been one of them. It might have been the only one. I don't know. But we went there, and it was just like kind of a upscaled suburban home. It wasn't much of anything. Even in the 90s, wasn't much of anything. Now, that might not have been his main home, but the guy we were with was reliable, and I believe it was his home. And don't get me wrong, it was a nice home. It just wasn't what I would expect coming from a country star. So we go back, and I forget. He had something to do. I can't remember, but he couldn't be home. So we went to Tammy's house, and we stayed all night with her. And me and Mike are in bunk beds in Nashville. And she was in the other room, I don't know, getting ready for bed. We was all getting ready for bed. And Mike ends up disappearing. He was, we all smoked then. He could have went outside to smoke. I don't know. But I'm really leading up to nothing here. So we went to bed, got up the next day, and continued with our journey. We went into, it was Sony, it was Sony. It was Sony Records in Nashville, because I remember there was a big banner up that was congratulating Mary Chapin Carpenter for one of her albums. I don't know. It must have went platinum, double platinum. I don't know. Hell, it could have went gold. It could have been a release party. I don't know. But this is common in Nashville, at least at that time. It wasn't uncommon to see everything and anything that was music exploited. If it was worth talking about, it was worth having on every billboard. So, anyway, we're doing these gigs with this girl, and then we were supposed to do a showcase in Nashville, and honestly, I don't remember what happened. Oh, what happened is I guess Mike had got the call from Bobby Braddock and said, look, we're done with this. We're pulling the plug on this thing. We can't keep this chick together. Just being flaky. Not really wanting to do it, wanting everybody to do everything for her. Just, everybody wants to be a superstar until they got to put the work in. So this was many journeys that we had to Nashville. And a lot of times it was, as I said, it was at least 2 times, up to 4 times a month. And it lasted maybe 6 or 7 months. I can't remember. But in those travels, we went to Wayne Moss's studio, which just looked like a rundown, dilapidated, just dilapidated studio. Even then, in the 90s, it was like, damn, this stuff is old. It's like pictures you see of Elvis or whatever in the studio, and each knob on the mixer was the size of your fist. It was big stuff. And way before DAT, way before any of that, it was like old reel-to-reel stuff, which, it's not a thing. It's not a thing wrong with that. I'm just trying to paint this picture. And I don't even think he used half-inch, 2-inch tape. I don't know what the hell he used. It just looked like a reel-to-reel, but apparently, I don't know if any songs were ever cut out of that studio. But, I mean, it had a drum room. It had, a control room. I mean, it was a legit studio, but it looked like it was frozen in time. It was just old. So anyway, that was. Oh, and I forgot. In these journeys of going down there and coming back, I mean, of course we came back. Mike ended up taking the lead singer at the time, and I won't say his name, but we were all in a hotel room at that point in time, damn near sleeping on top of one another. And Mike and this lead singer leaves, and they go to Charlie Daniels' house. They hang out with this dude for like hours. And I don't really know what the point of it was, because I think Mike was also trying to get that lead singer a gig with somebody. And the lead singer is just, he's arrogant, he's cocky. Well, a typical lead singer. And so, it is what it is. But there's many, well, I can't say many, but there's a few more stories like that that's not, not far off from one another. But I guess the point of this story is, when you're a musician, you're always pushing to get to that next level, to be somebody, to be on those big stages, even if it's just a hired gun. It's nothing to sneeze at. I think that'd be the best job in the world. You're a hired gun. You get to travel the world. You get to stay in most cases, fancy ass hotels. You get treated like a king. And when you hit that stage in front of 25, 30,000 people, you are the guy. You're the man. You're the woman. And the thing is, not one person in that place is there to see you, nor do they give a shit who you are. They're there to see that performer. If it's not a band type situation. If it's a band type situation, well, that doesn't apply. But it was just a great time. I was making, again, it was the 90s. So for that time period, I was making great money. Didn't need to work. I was already making money playing. But that seemed to stop. 2 years afterwards, I can't remember. Then the drumming career had to be put on the back burner because bills had to be paid. So I had to go get a real job. And I've had a lot of real jobs. So, I think anyone can relate to this, that if you want, I don't care what it is, that if you want something bad enough, you'll put the time in and the effort to try to make it happen. Even if it doesn't happen, you've still succeeded because you tried. Kind of the old thing that the only person that, or the only type of people that fail are the people that don't try, or whatever the hell they say. you know, it is a journey, and there's a lot of things that you do get to see along the way that if you didn't take that chance, you never would have seen. And there's a lot of disappointment, not so much on my end, but I've seen a lot of people, come unglued as they got older because they never became that rock star that they wanted to be. And as Nita Strauss says, and if you don't know who she is, she's a guitar player for Alice Cooper and has been with him for some time. She says that ego kills talent, even though talent is a word that I don't like to use. It's absolutely right. It does. When your ego gets in the way, it's stopping you from being a better player, a better person, a better human being. So I guess that's really it. I just wanted to share that with you. I do have a couple more episodes that's coming up after this that's already been recorded. I just don't know what sequence I'm going to put them in yet. So, thank you folks for being here. Again, I look at the analytics and thank you all very much for listening. I'm sure you can find this. The more I do these podcasts, the more I learn more about it. I'm sure you can find my email, but if you cannot, it is splashtalkpodcast@gmail.com. You can email me if you have a question, if you have an idea that you might want me to talk about, or I'm not against having guests, and I believe that I will be having one before much longer, as soon as life kind of calms down here a little bit. So thank you folks for being here. And as I say, it's Splash Talk, and I'm Jason Neal. Thank you so much. Have a great night. Bye, folks.